I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Garden City DDA today, October 10th at 6 p.m. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Can we take the roll, please?
Sure. Mayor Jacobs.
Here.
Chairperson Stabley.
Here.
Vice Chair Randy Walker is excused. Secretary Walkonis.
Here.
Trustee Bazzi. Trustee Kalef.
Yes, here.
Trustee Hyder.
Here.
Trustee Baydoun.
He's absent. Well, excused.
Trustee Barry.
We're expecting him. I think he's just running late.
Okay. Quorum is 5 and we meet that.
Okay. Moving on, we need approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I think we have some changes to make, though. The next meeting for November is the week of the Thanksgiving holiday, which might be difficult for some. So we were looking to reschedule that to the week before.
That'd probably be later on. Do that.
Oh, okay.
Make that change.
But, oh, you want to make the change
Because
later?
it's not on the, yeah, it's not actually on the agenda for next month's meeting, so I would just do it later on.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
So that's what we're gonna look to do. And I don't think we have any other changes then to the agenda, do we, John?
Did you want to add the presentation?
Oh, well, I mean, we do have presentations, but Zach is gonna make one. Okay, so, sorry, Secretary Walkonis made a motion to approve the agenda. Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Next, we have presentations, and Councilmember Zach Witt is going to make a presentation for us tonight.
Thank you, Chairperson Stabley and all the DDA trustees. At the last two council meetings, I brought up a committee idea. I'm going to go through my presentation, and on the monitors around me, you will see the pictures that were taken to support. So for the past several decades, the street side easements on Ford have fallen into great disrepair, especially from Merriman to Inkster Road. Even though the DDA made a significant investment into sidewalks, brick pavers, and landscaping in the late 90s, crumbling and non-existent curbs have caused the bricks along the side of Ford Road to become loose and uneven. Construction projects in the DDA area have led to brick pavers being removed and never replaced. In general, the streetscape that was installed over 20 years ago is suffering from signs of age. The area outside of the DDA is even worse. Overgrown weeds, broken asphalt, uneven sidewalks, and failing curbs contribute to a general blight that makes the city look bad. This is bad for the business community and not fair to our residents. I understand that Ford Road is a state road and that some maintenance is handled by the county. But I believe Garden City needs to make a serious attempt to upgrade this stretch to help make our city more appealing and to improve the safety of our residents, pedestrians, and motorists. Chunks of the curbs have been thrown at buildings from snowplows clearing the street, and the general blight created by the poor appearance of Ford Road should be a concern to all of us. It's been several decades since Ford Road had new concrete put in. Even though the state has milled off the old asphalt and replaced it, they have not made a comprehensive attempt to replace curbs. Even where the curbs are intact, they are often barely higher than the road. So I recommended putting a committee together, and at last night's council meeting, we voted for the mayor, Mark Jacobs, myself, and Councilmember Brian Earl to be the first 3 members on this committee. I'm asking tonight that an email be sent from either the DDA director or the chairperson to the rest of the board to gauge interest to have at least 3 members from the DDA, or at most 3 members from the DDA, to also be present on this committee, since there is a vested interest in the DDA area on this stretch of road. We would have hopefully 1 meeting a month. We'll wait until December to have the first meeting due to an upcoming conference that 2 of council members will be away at, as well as your guys' next meeting isn't until after that date. So for you guys to be brought up at the next meeting to either be appointed by the chairperson or have a vote to appoint those members. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. But that is the presentation.
I have one. Do you have an expected duration of the length of the commitment for the committee before we might see, some action or?
Based on needing state and county assistance as well as monies, and the budget for this year already being passed, it would be longer than a year expected, and members can be changed out at any point in time. I believe pending just change in appointment by the boards themselves. So, hopefully not more than two years, but depending on the state approving budgets and allowing monies to be used for this project, there's not a real exact, set in stone time frame.
Okay. Does anyone else have questions? Okay. We will,
And meetings will be scheduled around availabilities, as most of us have jobs or businesses that we run, so it will be available to all. Thank
okay.
you.
I think you said most of the meetings would probably be in the early evenings, such as.
Yes,
this.
mostly in the evenings, yep. Just because it works around my schedule mainly, because I do have a full-time 9 to 5.
Okay, we'll get a communication out to gauge interest and see about getting
I appreciate your time,
people
and
to appoint.
thank you for allowing me to present.
Just
Thank you.
one more question, sorry.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you, there is like some funds for the ADA compliance. I don't know if this is early stage or like have you discussed this with the state or?
So this is, yeah, it's still completely early stages. I have worked with I've spoken with the elected officials up the chain, so Wayne County Commissioner as well as a state senator and representative. All three of them are backing it. I just have to get the committee put together to have things put on proper documentation and sent so that they can start fighting for it to be put on the budgets for later years. And then I also spoke with Rashida Tlaib as well to try and see if there was any federal money that would also be able to be brought back. Because it's a state road, granted, where a lot of the work is done by Wayne County, but the state and the county are not always the greatest to work with.
Right.
But we're trying our best to get, the best bang for our buck in this project, to allow the DDA to replace all the brick pavers, as well as to get the curbs in better condition for, to make it a more walkable area downtown, so if a car were to hit a curb, a chunk's not gonna fly up at somebody and potentially cause an issue. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, moving on to community events, chili cook-off.
Yeah, it's happening this Saturday. The event runs from, the vendors come in first thing in the morning, cars come in first thing in the morning. I think the beer tent, we're opening at 11, and then the chili sales start at noon, go till 5, with awards happening at 4 p.m. And we collected a couple more cook teams, so we're up to 13 teams as of today, and a couple more sponsorships just came in. So, big tent went up today. There's more tents going up on Thursday, and it's happening. So, any questions I can answer about that?
I think we've pretty well covered it. We're still looking for volunteers though, right?
Always, yeah. If you
Okay.
have a couple hours, you want to come out and help, that'd be great.
Okay. And they can sign up on that Sign Up Genius that
Yeah.
is out there for
It's on our
everyone?
website and social media as well.
Okay. All right. Any more questions from the table? All right, we'll move along to public comments for agenda items only. Do we have anybody in the audience who would like to say something tonight?
John Murray, live on Lather Street. The light poles, there was an issue brought up because there was no bid. Because that was an emergency, does that not give you an option of going with the best price? Because those poles, if they had fell down and hit somebody or part of that, we would be sued for not having it properly addressed. So have we cleared the problem up, or are we still lingering in the background, putting pressure on other individuals? I'd like to know an answer there. And the other thing is this community development proposal. Does that have to go in front of a public hearing before you can adopt it? And with the things that happened last night with the ACLU, I question the integrity and decisions that sometimes the city manager makes, to where I'm not sure if you can put a building department with an economic developer. It would be an opportunity of fraud or unscrupulous behavior. So are we gonna get some sort of third-party opinion before we incorporate all these people? And would we not be better off hiring a management company to tell us exactly what we can do legally and illegally? And myself, as listening to our attorney, I'm not very comfortable with his approaches on issues, and we'll just let that sit.
Okay, thank you. Next, we're moving on to items for consideration. We have the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve that.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Nay, opposed? Passes unanimously. Next, we're moving on to action items for other business. Item number 1, memberships that the board has.
I was asked at the last board meeting to find out memberships and/or subscriptions, so those are printed as I've researched them to the best of my abilities. They're listed, and also, you know, a lot of them are acronyms, so it gives the spelling of what it is, and then what they're there for, what their purpose is there for. So I don't know if you want any more information above and beyond that. I can go through and find out if there's any, like we talked about, you talked about a conference or something associated with one of them. So I can track those and see what's coming up available. If the chair or any board members are interested in attending those for, you know, knowledge and so on and so forth. But they're listed there on that sheet.
So with this list, it doesn't have anything with, like the membership expirations, like the timeframes for, you know, when they might expire, how long before we have to renew any of these?
Yeah, some of them are just ongoing, because they're not paid for, and then some of them are just annual.
Okay. All right. Can we pull that, though? Because I think some of these, like Main Street America or MDA, might be something that we're paying for.
Sure.
And, you know, if there's some benefit using these to register for any of those conferences, then I guess if we have to renew before we can register, that would be helpful to know. Okay. Anyone else have any questions on that? Okay. Next item is the banner for light pole updates and information.
So last meeting, I brought to the board an opportunity to have banner signs put on our light poles for free at no cost to the city or the DDA. Basically, the way the program works is this company goes out and gets sponsorships from local businesses. We design the banner. The majority of the banner is, you know, city relic, and then the bottom of the banner is like, you know, your business listed. The questions that were brought up were, do they have to be up for 1 year? And the answer came back, they can stay up for roughly, that requires them to stay up for roughly a year. We can have our banners, the DDA's own banners hang, their banners hang 10 or 11 months if you want them to come down for certain events throughout the year. We would just tell the businesses about that before they sold them a sponsorship. But it goes on to talk about, you can just tell them it's 12 months, but it's not a consecutive 12 months. You could also put that banner on one side and some of our stock banners on the other side. So there's a lot of options with that. Can we change them and change them back? Yeah, we can do that. And then I talked with our maintenance guy, Gary Carter, and on the last sheet, it gives a little bit more of an update. So just for your information, we have fall banners for the fall season. We have Santaland Parade banners. We have the Christmas season banners. We have a spring season banner. We have a 4th of July holiday banner. In the past, Gary Carter's been doing that under the maintenance contract, and it's no extra charge for him to do that, according to him. So, and then if we wanted to, we could, I got a local sign company to give me a pricing of approximately $125 per banner. They're the 18-ounce vinyl versions. They seem to last quite a bit. It's also in here in an email. Depending on weather and how long they're up is, 3 to 4 years maybe, if that's consecutive, but most of the banners that we use are seasonal, so they should last longer than that. But you know how the sun and weather can beat them up and so on and so forth. So that kind of gives the information on that. Is that the board's pleasure if they choose to, pursue this banner company to do something so it's fresh? We could also use funding from our own light item to, make our own banners as well. So, it was just an idea. But, it brings a little vibrance to the downtown. We got the new light poles up, so let's use them.
Do we know exactly how many we can accommodate? Did we get that number?
Forgot something. No, I don't know. But currently, we have the light poles on Middle Belt all the way up and down that are ready to accommodate. To be honest, all the tall light poles that we own, we have banner hardware to put banners on every single one of them. There's 73 lights in total, but I couldn't tell you the exact number of the tall ones right off the top of my head.
So I do have a question, John. On the sponsor section, are we going to go outside the city, or will they go outside the city, potentially?
Nikki had stated that it was, are you talking the DDA district or outside the city of Garden City?
Outside the city of Garden City. Say they can't get enough sponsors for the polls, and they need 10 more or whatever.
We did not talk about that specific question. My assumption would be that it is a city-specific program. As presented by them, they've done it, every conversation is about this city or that city, so I would assume, but I can double check with her, just to make sure.
Yeah, because I'd like to see only Garden City businesses obviously advertising in Garden City, so.
Well, part of that was for us as a membership to send something out to the businesses indicating our support of them to utilize their services, right?
Sorry, I didn't understand that at all. What?
Like, I thought that the last time we talked about this, that part of it was that we as a membership were to send out some kind of communication to the businesses in our city supporting
Right.
them
Sure,
to
yeah.
utilize this.
Yeah, they require us to send a, just a letter of approval, so to speak, that we condone this and we're on board with this and we want this to happen. Right, that's correct.
Okay. But do we know, like, what the businesses will be spending for something like that?
Nope,
Okay,
no, that's all on their end.
okay.
That'd be a good question to ask them, how much they're going to charge the businesses, so before we get into a contract, they're not charging an outrageous amount to do this.
Yeah, some
Because
small
I don't want
businesses might
to send
not be able
out
to.
to Dr. Hyder their application or an approval letter, and they come in and go, well, it's going to be $5,000.
Sure,
You know.
sure. And understand, this doesn't have to be done tomorrow. We have banners that we can put up through this holiday season and so on and so forth. But we can continue to, walk down this road and see what that looks like for next year.
Is this something that can be a DDA sponsorship donation that businesses can do to the DDA? If we were to make the banners rather than have, like, us be that company, DDA be that company?
Possibly.
Where the businesses donate to the DDA?
Yeah. I would just want to make sure that that's within the parameters of money movement for.
I think you
what we
could,
do.
I think you could do that. We'd have to set a price or whatever.
Let's
but
see
it-
what they charge businesses,
Right.
and then we can look at it and see, maybe we can do something better.
I know the banners aren't that expensive, so I would imagine if the DDA charged a fee for putting them up, taking them down, making them, something similar to that might be something to look at, since we're having our guy take them up and down
We have somebody
anyways.
who's doing it already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our maintenance guy.
Okay.
Maybe it'll help pay for the maintenance guy, right?
Right.
It'll
Good.
Offset,
offset that.
okay. Any other discussion on that?
Or cutting the grass in areas that haven't been cut in a long time. Can I talk about that? No,
I think that's
Soon.
trustee board comments.
right?
Okay, moving on. Next item was the contact list.
Yeah, that's in your packet. List all you guys and your email and your phone number contact, and then it also lists the ending of the term that you're sitting in, so you'll know. And then if you have a current seat, this is also getting updated on the website. It's in process. I'll talk about that in a minute. But there's a updated list for every one of you as requested.
Thank you for that.
I would say for the website, you're not putting out
Your personal phone number, yes.
phone numbers, yeah.
Just kidding. No, that's not. The website's only gonna host, the name. And I actually wanted, no, it's just the name and position on the board.
Okay.
We're gonna filter those type of emails, like, through the DDA office, because, I think that's proper.
Okay. So do we cover the next item then, the website updates and improvements?
Yeah, so I talked with communications at City Hall, Zach King, and he's been helping guide through that website. That's a pretty extensive website. We're attached to the city's website. So a lot of the stuff's actually been updated already. The biggest concern that I've heard from general people is it's hard to navigate the website, but that's not just to do with the DDA. There's so much on that website. And unless you're on there quite a bit, I think it's difficult to navigate. But the information for the DDA is specifically I think that's what you were asking about. It's being updated. There's a couple other things still happening. And understand it's gonna continue to be updated because it's ever changing.
I thought the budget was supposed to be up there, and I think a few other items that haven't been updated recently.
Yeah,
So
the
do
budget,
you have access to that now?
say again?
You have access to that
I
now
do.
to be able to update?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep. So that'll continue on.
Okay. Anyone else, questions on that? Next item, mini golf acquisition.
So the chair had asked me last meeting about, possibly, there was ideas about a city park in the area in which you guys know to be the farmer's market or the Lucky Squirrel or the chili cook-off zone. The chair had asked about possible acquisition of the mini golf property because the latest project fell through. So I talked to the owner over there. She had stated that, yes, they're still interested in selling. They did not say no. They did not say yes. She wanted to talk with her husband, kind of have a conversation and, take it a little bit slow. These are wonderful people. They want to retire, but they don't want to sell the farm for $2. So, they want to get, retirement value out of their place. So no specific numbers were talked about it. So that door is still open for discussion.
Okay.
when that will be sold to the city, what is it going to be used for?
Well, there's nothing set in stone,
Okay.
but there was talk or discussion about redeveloping the space, which you know is behind your business locations somewhat. And then if they had that across Central Avenue, there could be an expansion of that redevelopment. But that's all, you know, that's all open for discussion. That's been talked about for a while, and there's also a design company that's done some renderings for us in the past, but we had other pressing things as a board that needed to be taken care of, so that got kind of set to the back for now.
I'd like to see about bringing that idea back, you know, and if we can move forward with something there, maybe we can look to put that on the agenda in the near future.
The city park idea,
Yeah.
that space, sure.
Sure. Okay. Next item is the business district address list.
Sure, I got that right here. After more discussion with the, what do you call him, the deputy clerk, is that right? The assistant clerk, Brian? This is only active businesses, so I did not realize that when I first got it. I thought it was all businesses within the district. I did put a note on here, there's 99 active businesses in the DDA district on Ford Road, and there's 59 active businesses on Middlebelt Road. That's only within the DDA district. So now I'm gonna go back and figure out what I thought was on the list for vacancies or buildings that are not being used, spaces in buildings,
Okay.
okay?
Is that something we're going to distribute to the board fully, or just when you're done?
Say that again?
When it's complete with the vacancies
Yeah,
and
once I have all the
everything,
information, then
we'll
I'll,
distribute to
yeah, I'll
everyone?
bring back more information for you, yeah.
Okay. All right. Any questions on that from anybody?
You said there were 98 businesses on Ford Road,
99 active businesses on
Nine-
Ford Road and
99.
59 on Middlebelt.
Yeah, that's just Henry Ruff to Harrison on Ford Road, and then, what's that road? Bach to Maplewood.
Okay. All right.
The other item that's not listed under other business as a line item was the Christmas tree deal. You guys had asked, some options on that, so if I'm not mistaken, there's an email in here for you. The questions to the Christmas tree people was, what is all included in the cost that they showed us? One, is it storage, setup, tear down, maintenance of lights, any additional costs? Response was about 95% of the items listed below are covered. We usually have some spare replacement bulbs that the crew replaces as needing during the setup. Any additional costs that are sometimes incurred is something like an extension cord. Storage is included in the quote. If Garden City were to opt to store the tree themselves, a 15 by 15 storage unit would be needed, and the materials cannot be stacked. Garden City would also need to have the materials at the spot at the park before started for the setup. So what was not included in here was what is cost to set up and tear it down without storing it, and I'm still waiting for that answer. But, you know, that's a 15 by 15 foot space, we would need to store that. So I did some pricing in the area. U-Haul over there in Westland on Wayne Road, a 10 by 15 foot space is $190 a month. They don't have any spaces available. The U-Haul that's down in Inkster on Michigan Avenue, the biggest they have is a 8 by 16 space, that's $130 a month. It's on a second level, up 9 stairs and inside. The storage place over on Ann Arbor Trail, they have a 10 by 20 space for $270 a month, or a 10 by 30 space for $440 a month. More options can be sought out, just to give you an idea. Minimum, I think you're looking at the 10 by 20 space to store it. It costs about $3,300 for the year just to store it, and then you gotta have setup and tear down on top of that. And I'm sure that the maintenance of that could possibly change if they're not storing it for us as well. But, you know, I'll move forward on how the board sees they would like to move forward.
Did we check with DPW?
I did check with DPW. DPW said they had no space, neither at their home base over behind Moeller, and I also inquired about their space. They have, there's like a, I think it's a maintenance storage barn over at Garden City Park, and they said that was full also.
Okay. So do we have a deadline for approving the payment for this year with English
Well,
Gardens?
typically, I think that tree goes up the week, what is it, the week before Thanksgiving, usually, because you got the holiday, and then you got the Santa Land Parade, and then that following Monday is usually like the Christmas tree lighting.
Lighting.
So, you know, I don't,
Well, John, thanks for putting.
first of all, they got the tree.
Thanks for putting the work. Can we put a motion to just approve that?
I
Yes.
think we can add it.
I motion to just approve that English Gardens continue to store it and maintain it and move forward with it. But thanks
Up
for
and
putting
take
the
it
time
down.
to doing that.
Like 55 or 6 between the two.
After just mentioning the storage idea, I mean, that $3,300 alone is significant. I
That's
mean,
not the right size.
Right.
Correct.
John, one question. Is it possible that we buy a shed from Home Depot and then put it in the DPW yard?
The issue with that, I think, is they're gonna come back and say, well, it's not stored properly, and then you need to, there's so many issues with it. That puts the risk on them to store it properly, and if any of the lights break, now that we're not paying extra for all of that.
I think with the price, DPW's yard is pretty full, and
Yeah.
at certain times, it's even
And we
fuller.
don't want it to be pushed
So I-
off to the side always, like, oh, we gotta move this, well, move the tree, put the tree off to the side.
Yeah.
So
No,
now it's in the hands.
I would agree with Dr. Hyder on,
So
I
I
think we-
motion to move forward with it, if anybody wants to
Second.
second.
I second.
With support. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? That motion will pass unanimously, and we will send payment to English Gardens.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next item is the Director of Community Development proposal.
I have a question about this. Is this director in addition to John being a director, or is this void John's position?
Right now, John is a interim director, and then that would probably be up to the board as to how we wanted to move forward. I think city manager had a presentation on the whole proposal. So he can present.
Can you present?
Oh,
He wants to come.
oh, I'm sorry. I was just focused here.
Not so much a presentation, but just give you an overview a little bit about what we're talking about. Doc Doherty, City Manager of Garden City. Thank you, Board, for allowing me to speak tonight. So historically, I started about 5.5 years ago, and one of the biggest goals the council had was an economic development director. But looking at the numbers, it's not efficient for the city to hire a full-time position to oversee economic development, basically of strip malls on Warren and Inkster, because you've got a DDA. The entire DDA, the focus is downtown development, which is economic development. For the DDA, that's the job. So we've got a $600,000 department. If we go and hire someone, they're either going to conflict. There's no reason to compliment. You already have the business of downtown. So I've been holding this off for a number of years, saying to the council, it's just financially, it's not efficient to have somebody else. So we understand the city doesn't make money off the sales tax itself of businesses. So filling a strip mall into a business into a strip mall doesn't mean we're going to make a lot more in taxes. The state will get a little more in sales tax, but whether we have businesses in our city or not, we're going to receive the same amount of money. It doesn't matter where the business is, it's still split evenly across the state. So we make money off of property values. And obviously a strip mall that's filled could go up in value. But putting a pizza place into a strip mall that's the last vacant spot is probably not going to change the property values drastically, because in 3 months, 6 months, that pizza might be gone, pizza place out of business. So statistically, it's like, well, if we have every place filled, we'll make a lot more money. Well, we won't make any money off sales tax. We'll make money off property values if we're a destination for everyone to come to. But as you look at Dearborn Heights and you look at the Livonia and Westland, there's a lot of empty spaces in some lucrative-looking areas. So the expectation of filling up every spot and having our prices go crazy is probably not realistic. So we've been talking about this for years with council of, I just don't see how we hire an economic development director to do everything outside the DDA. And I believe the chairman, you had your quote last week, was the downtown development's where it starts. And that is true. And I've always said that. This is where it begins in the DDA. The new part that came about was before this position was who's going to oversee the building department when our clerk leaves. What's happened traditionally over the years, we've had building officials that oversaw the building department. We've had public works directors oversee the building department. We've had clerk treasurer oversee the building department. But when I hired Matt Miller as a clerk who came in from Wayne a few years ago, he's not only a clerk, but he's actually an AICP certified planner, building and zoning administrator. He was doing that in Wayne before he even got into the clerk business. So hiring him as a city clerk, that was gold for us. He can oversee the building department and do the clerk work. That's happening right now, and it's been pretty much flawless for us for the last 4 years. Matt's involvement in the building department is very little. He oversees if there's a serious issue. If a resident's coming in and totally disagrees with our department, the building official or Mario, our zoning administrator, that's when he may get involved. Or if there's a question of how we handle something, they'll go and talk to Matt. Matt's most job, literally his job, is clerking. He oversees the elections, all the council meetings, FOIA requests, death certificates, all of those things. That's really 99% of his job. And he oversees the building department if there's a question. Well, we have to fill that position. He's retiring just after the winter, or late in the winter. Who's going to oversee our building department at this point? Well, we can hire a contractor outside to come in and oversee. Could be a Buccelli or McKenna that we work with now. Somewhere we probably should have someone overseeing. Building officials taking care of everything. Mario's doing a great job as our zoning administrator. We probably should have at least one step above. So now we're looking at the question the council's asked for is an economic development director for the city. Someone now we have to have oversee the building department. Still not financially enough money to make this person worth the salary, but the question now has become the DDA director possibility. Can we merge all three of these positions together and create the synergy across the city? So no longer is our economic development director for the city focused on Warren and Inkster and outside the DDA. That person now is covering the entire city rather than just the DDA exclusively or just the city exclusively, two different people. It's the same person. And oh, by the way, that person then, if there's an issue in the building department, can help oversee the building department. I don't want an image out there by any means that says, well, that person's going to be all day in the building department. Our current building official or administrator is not in the building department very much at all, and that would be our clerk. So if you took just Matt Miller as it's his position and took away all of his clerking duties and said, you know what, we'd like to make you the economic development director and oversee the DDA, he would have more than enough time to oversee the DDA because that piece of overseeing the building department is so small. So as I look at this big picture and saying, let's put these three entities together, they're economic development for the whole city, DDA is part of it, and overseeing the building department, now you have a home run. Now you have the possibility of hiring someone very qualified, very educated, great experience, who I believe the DDA would be proud of, having them represent the DDA, as well as being connected with the entire development of our city and the building department. Because now you've got someone who actually could be directly involved in adjusting the ordinances. You know, in the past, the DDA certainly could say, we'd like to change this or change that from a DDA director or the board's perspective. The person now, as the DDA director, literally is the person who can bring it to the city council as an employee and say, we're looking to change ordinances downtown, met with the board, we want to do some great things. So when I say the synergy of all of it coming together, it truly isn't the DDA as an outside board, the city over here, and you know, let's figure out how we work this thing out. To pay this salary, we're talking about $17 million in new development. 17 million is a lot of new development. That is finishing off the Kmart parking lot and such. Filling a couple stores in with just some retail businesses is going to do nothing to help pay off this position. So I'm still wondering, looking at this, as I've heard some people whisper, well, let the city just hire the economic development director and then we'll just do our DDA thing. To me, financially, it's not worth it for the city to go into such an investment for someone who's just going to oversee the building department a little bit and then worry about economic development outside the DDA. Bringing the three together makes a whole lot of sense. And I think there was some questions about other cities that use it, and I haven't looked at this list for a few weeks since I just went and did a quick list. Cities like Jackson, Lathrop Village, Grosse Ile, Grosse Pointe Park, Mount Clemens, Flat Rock, Redford, Dearborn, Wayne, and Westland, all of their DDA directors are city employees. And they're either listed as building officials, community development directors, or economic development directors. So literally, Dearborn, Wayne, Westland, Redford, right around us, are doing exactly what we're proposing to the board. Now, this is absolutely the board's decision. In the past, it was your board. It was about $70,000 is what you were paying without the benefits. We're looking at hiring a position about 100,000 range with full pension for retirement as well as full health care, 100%. If you go and look to try to hire someone at 70 with no benefits, you're probably limited in who you're going to end up hiring representing the DDA. We merge our efforts together, we're probably going to be able to find a much higher qualified person with the experience to solve both of our needs. But I can literally guarantee, as God is my witness, this person is not going to be sitting at City Hall hanging out in the building department. Their entire job will be downtown, focused on meeting the developers, going over plans. What I envision this person is coming to the meetings with a whole lot of graphs, analysis, charts, newest trends happening. I see us sending the person to Grand Rapids and some other areas, talking to developers in other cities. Come here, here's what we're looking at. You know, we've got a nice development up in Plymouth across from Ironwood, a developer whose stores in the bottom, 3 stories up, bringing them downtown here. But it starts with this board and the DDA director of what is the vision that you guys want to see. And that's one thing I've been kind of questioning is, what is the corner? I heard last talk a little bit was Orange Jewelers trying to keep the building. Well, what would the building or around it, what would it look like? What can they say and really, here's the full detail of what you guys want to see. What do you want to see in Kmart parking lot? I've always said a hotel. I always said a Holiday Express, Comfort Suites. You've got 600-seat banquet hall right there. And who else walks the streets at nights that might fill up the Weinstein building where Hershey's Shoes is, but people walking around at night out from a wedding or a party or just in a hotel. Most major hotels like to be at the highways, and that's where they are. But this whole area has nothing, and there's not a whole lot of spots to build a hotel with a downtown centralized. That's something I've been talking about for years, but I don't know if that's been an approach by the DDA or that's even an interest of your board. But I think bringing a new director in, looking at it with new eyes from maybe from somewhere else they're working, maybe it's an assistant director somewhere else that's got the background. But the whole idea is they're working with the city, they're working with the DDA. It doesn't help us whatsoever if this board's sitting there saying, this person's just not qualified, they're not working with us, it's all about the city and not us. That's absolutely the opposite reason why I would hire this person. Because the building department runs itself, we just would like to have someone oversee it. But we can't afford to hire someone just to fill in the strip malls on Warren. So if we can work together, to me it's a tremendous partnership. It's not an unusual partnership of working together. But I think we set something up of a contract that's just a couple of years or 3 years or something that you have a 60-day clause anyway. Whatever we would try to do for this position, if you guys are very unhappy and say we want to go our own way, you know, we shouldn't be tying anything down. So when we look at this, this is not a one and done, make a decision for the next 20 years. I believe you're going to be very satisfied with this person. And certainly our objective every day is to, what did you do for downtown today? Who'd you talk to today? Who are you bringing down as a developer to look at what we're doing? And what's the latest, like I said, throughout the country or downtown developments? What should we be looking at that we're not looking at? And that's where I see this partnership and relationship going. It's not the bad use of term, but it's not like a money grab for the city of, oh, we just want to pay you off by using your money. The success is going to come from this board. It's not going to come from, well, the building department's running well. It is running well. This position's not going to make a change there. It's this position, I think, for you guys, that not for you yourself, but us also, that the city's going to benefit of some serious development or the strongest attempts, I think, that we've ever seen. And so that's where I see the synergy between the three of us, and that's why this offer's been made to you. I see it now as it's still going to cost the city more money, a lot more. Your $70,000 will be about 1/3 of what this overall cost is going to be when you start adding healthcare costs and pensions and things. But you're probably not going to get a lot of opportunity for people, and I think you went through this in the past year, of candidates when they look and possibly aren't looking at healthcare when they have families, younger person possibly, or pension long term. Like, you know, in Michigan, pensions are still strong, not so much everywhere else, but we will be offering that. So, and the hope is having at least a couple of members of the DDA on the hiring process through the board. It would have to be, I'd say this publicly, it would have to be a final decision by the city, because we're hiring them literally for a 25-year sentence, as the police and fire always remind me. They're 25. So, but I've done enough hiring, as some of you have also. It's pretty easy when you interview 5 people. Everyone pretty much agrees who is the top candidate. It's not a lot of arguing back and forth between 2 or 3 people. So I would want people on the board from here interviewing with us. But I believe if there's a real issue of you guys say this person and we say this person, that's probably not going to happen. And if it does, then we have to rethink this, because it doesn't make us feel comfortable at all from my position or the council. If the DDA is unhappy with the first decision we made was, we don't like the person you brought in. So, and it may take us a couple of rounds to find the right person. We've done that a few times with department heads. So that's, I just want to give you a little more background and detail. I can answer any questions you have, but it said, like I said, we make an agreement that literally is maybe 2 or 3 years to say, this is our plan, revisit it in 2 or 3 years. But certainly if 6 months into it, you guys say this isn't working, we just end it right there, and then you go your way and we continue our way. But I believe we'd be successful. Yes, sir.
I have a question. Thank you. So the 70 comes from the DDA?
Yes.
And then the 30 comes from the city?
The 130, we're going to be paying everything else on top of that, yes. You would just pay 70 and nothing more. We'll pay the other 30 plus the healthcare and the pension that ends up adding, I believe the finance director did a number about 220, 215, 220, when you add everything else on.
So the amount that we're pushing this out is the $200,000 a year? Or is
It'll be a salary of 100 at this point, and then with the extras on top, yes, when you start getting into your payments for your employee, your FICA and everything else on top of that, plus the retiree and pension. Pension hurts big.
I see.
When you add that on, that's long-term cost forever for the city.
But DDA comes out 70.
70 flat.
And that 70 comes from the
The budget that we
budget
have
that
for
comes out.
salary.
And then usually that is a budget that we have for salary that's about roughly.
We set it this year at 65, but we
65.
have the ability to amend
to
that at
amend
any
it.
time.
Okay.
Yeah, and no additional costs on that, and I don't see that changing drastically over the next few years either, so. And it wouldn't change drastically for you guys anyway, if
And
there's any increase.
The success of that director is in the success of the city.
Absolutely.
And which is, as you said, John, we're part of the, we're on the city website. So ultimately, the grandfather is the city, and we're the parents underneath it. So in line, we want the city to look good, because if the city looks good, everything underneath it looks good.
That's right.
Okay,
And we start from the downtown out.
that's right.
We've been saying that for years, yeah. So, any questions?
Anyone else?
Thank you.
As far as like any, like annual increases with salary,
I wouldn't see that we could do something just for the first 3 years or whatever, if you want to set up a deal with a deadline at least to revisit, so there's no questions. But if a termination clause is in there, doesn't matter how many years it is, 60 days or 30 days, whatever, either way. Because if we find there's issues, we can also say, maybe we need to step back. But certainly if the DDA is not happy, you should be able to step back also and not say, well, we're stuck for another year and a half. But I would say, since it's been about 70 is where the salary's been, we just keep it at that. So it's again, it's not a money grab to try to pay a position by the DDA. That job will be a DDA director and heavily involved in everything.
so you review employees like on an annual basis?
They,
Or
by
is it
union contracts that everybody has, there is no merit raises.
Okay.
So it's kind of an ongoing, there is no set system that we have in our city that each employee is evaluated, because of the fact that by union contracts, there's no disciplining or lowering salaries or raising, and so there isn't a regular evaluation like you see at some other places.
So as a department head, would that be a union employee as well?
Yes, we actually have a union department head union, GCS PPA. Some's called an association. The difference is, unlike, we have 5 unions in town. One of them is the department head. The other 4, if they file a grievance and you go through the process, in the end, it's called binding arbitration. If an attorney or judge at the end says, no, the city was wrong for firing our client, we have to hire him back no matter what. The GCS PPA has similar rules to everything else in the unions, But step 5 is not mandatory hire back. They can go through the process and a judge could say, we think they should be hired back. It's up to the city to make the final decision. But there's so many steps in the grievance process that usually you come to senses to either say, this person's got to go, or maybe I should rethink this and maybe we should hire this person back. So I say that it's a little extensive, but 5 unions, one of them does not have binding arbitration, meaning we're forced. And a lot of bad employees that keep getting hired back by cities usually are forced to hire that person back. The department head union does not have that. We're not forced to hire back a bad person. But at the same time, if someone's not working out, it doesn't take long to, as we've gone through the last few years, there's some people that just didn't make it with us, unfortunately, but they were talked to many times before they got to that point. No one has
And
called
then
in and said, you're out.
That arbitration is paid for by the city?
It's a combination between the union and the city.
I see.
They split it. It's a couple few grand at that point. And we haven't gone through that process with any department heads, and yet we've made some changes with some department heads the last few years. But again, it's a step that they are well aware that things aren't working out. What's the expectations aren't there. And in my time here, we've had a changeover for a number of department heads that just didn't make it, unfortunately. So at no point are we looking to hire a low expectation person in this place. And we're certainly not looking to hire someone that's looking to slow down. Yeah, I'm looking for a last minute job here and just hang out in the office. This is a door-to-door. This is a business card to every business downtown. Call me with questions for anything. Oh, by the way, DDA board, did you see what other cities are doing? Here's what we'd like to try to consider here, and so on. I think you'd be very pleased. I have no idea who that person is at this point. I absolutely have nobody in mind. We're going to start from scratch, but I believe you'll be successful.
And who's going to be involved in the hiring process?
It's usually myself and HR director or a couple of staff members, but we'd have members of your board. It's up to you, the chairwoman, to decide if you want to appoint a couple of people to be involved, so you're comfortable with who.
So no dedicated number of people from both sides, from the city side, from your side, or from the DDA board? Is it 3 of you and 3 here? And
It's up to what
who's
you.
involved actually in this, in the hiring and interviewing?
Well, you could have 2, 3, 4 people in the interview phase. Usually we'll go even to a luncheon with possibly a candidate and have a few extra people there to get a sense, are they seeing something we did not see? So it's not usually a one meeting and done. We could have several levels of interview process. But as I said, I mean, just to be strictly honest, it could not be just a total decision by the DDA board of this is the person we're picking, because the city is stuck with them for 25 years. And if the DDA a year later says, you know what, we don't like that person, we're going to hire our own, we're stuck. So clearly, I think in the end, the city has to make the final decision, but we're not going to make a decision that the DDA board's not comfortable with. That wouldn't make any
We'll have
sense
that
to
in
me.
writing.
What's that?
So we'll have that in writing. And why are you
I've
stuck
said
with
it,
them for
yeah.
25 years?
What's that?
You said you're stuck with them for 25 years. Why is that?
Retirement. If they choose to stay here, that's the retirement age of 25 years. They could actually buy 5 years and leave. That's how city employees are
Say it
designed here.
again?
They could buy 5 years. If they're here for 20 years and they bought 5 years, meaning they paid in advance, we have people retiring here after 20 years working with the city. They can retire out normally at 25 years. So you have an employee that's hired here at 20 years old, can retire at 45 years old. It's not a secret. That's Michigan, and that's MERS program, and that's cities all over the place.
That's all our city employees, police, fire, DPW. They can,
Clerk's office.
I didn't
Clerks.
realize that this job would be like that, that 25 and maybe, that you had to keep, never mind, I got it.
Yeah.
There was a confusion, but I got it.
Yeah, so that's why, like I said, some of the unions call it the 25-year sentence. Once you start at a place, you really don't want to take off at that point. You'd have to start all over, but this person may not concerned with that. They might be experienced enough, they might have their own money, they're not really worried about those things either. But as I said, when you put the two together, it's, okay, DDA is going to hire someone at 70 with no benefits. I may hire a contractor just to oversee the building department. If you put the two together, we could probably find someone a whole lot more dedicated and experienced and educated than that. So that's the offer on the table to you guys. And as a side note, I don't think, as we talked about here, it's not something that sticks to DDA that, like I said, you make this decision, you're going to regret. There's a regret, you just move on and we go our parted ways. But I don't think we're going to get to that point. I think there's going to be a lot more pleasure in this than those issues. But, so.
Thank you.
up to the board if we want to make a motion or move today or discuss?
I mean, personally, I see nothing but positive out of this. If somebody has any negative, if you can bring the negative out so that I could see it.
So forgive me if I'm asking stupid questions, but that person, we want to hire somebody with $70,000, right?
100.
From our
It'd be about
budget.
100,000.
From DDA.
70 from the DDA.
70, okay.
And the city puts in 30, so his salary would be 100. We're just gonna share the
Okay,
expense of hiring him.
okay. No, I meant the 70,000, like, we wanted to hire somebody before as DDA.
So historically, the DDA director, the person that sits in this seat right here, is an average about 70,000 per year salary.
Okay,
And that's not included like this robust retirement and health care, so on and so forth. This budget is average a little over 500,000 a year for the DDA only, and it's being asked by the city for the DDA to put in $70,000 towards this employee that has, a pretty extensive retirement package. By the way, I looked this up on the website, so this total, as the city manager said, the total compensation package is like $220,000 with like a pay rate of almost $50 an hour, and the city manager's compensation package is $190. Like, why don't you go for this job? Like, it's more money. I mean, you're gonna have an employee that's making more than you, and you're the boss. So, I
A lot
thought
of
that
the
was
employees
interesting.
do.
And if I'm not mistaken, since this is on there, this is already, the city already budgeted for a community development director for that the amount of money, and you still want the DDA's money, is that right?
I'm not sure what exactly we budgeted for, but yes, we did. City council in their CIP did budget for an economic development director.
Yeah. So I want to be very clear, because I'm the interim director. At no time when I talk about this specific subject am I fighting for myself personally, okay? I want to be very clear about that. However, I've got more experience on that board than all of you, and no disrespect with that, it's just I've been here, right? So I think it's important to listen to everything. While I might have comments, I don't try to make them negative. I try to make them realistic. Because I think the board is very critical in your decision-making and your master plan for what the DDA can do and can be. And that also includes who you put in the driver's seat to do that. If you read this community development recruitment packet, that I believe is what it's going to be used to recruit, right? This is what you're going to put out?
Yeah, it's not final, it's a draft.
But it's pretty close. I mean, this is very, very robust. And from my experience being here since January, there's a lot to do without even talking about economic development. And people can crack jokes about event planning all you want. You come over here and sit in that office with me and plan a chili cook-off, and we'll talk after. And I don't say that threatening, I just say there's a lot happening. And the simple lucky squirrels, a lot happening. Conversations with business owners, flagging calls about this, that, and the other thing. There's a lot going on. Now, I'm not saying all this to say that this isn't a good idea. I want to be clear that I've said this from the beginning, that putting money towards this person is a good idea, because I think there's value in economic development, and we all know that you look at a map, you're gonna put a dot right at Ford and Middlebelt and go, I mean, you guys are right there. Like, man, I wish that would be filled with some action. We all do. But conversely, outside the city, there's big lots too. That dealership down the street, that's a big eyesore on Ford Road, which this person, I would believe, would be targeting that space because it's huge. I just want to say, number one, I think it's a good idea. Number two, I think it needs to be done in the right manner. With that being said, if you take this person and you decide to do this moving forward, I think there is at least a spot in time. Number one, you don't have to unemploy me. That's your decision. And you don't have to continue to employ me. That's also your decision. But I think there's gonna be at least a minimum, if you say yes to anything of this in nature, there's gotta be a buffer point where this goes like that, right? What I'm saying is, if you say yes to this, understand there's an opportunity for me to help buffer that change. We all know the city manager is gonna be the boss of this person. But even the city manager doesn't know what happens in the DDA office. And I think there's value in that. I think that's important.
So, having said that, this person that's hired by us for 70 and.
You're just
Actually, it's hired by the
giving,
city.
yeah, you're
Yep.
just giving money,
It's hired by
right?
the city. But do we have an opportunity to continue to hire an additional director?
That's up to you,
That-
according
that
to
would
this
be-
budget.
Yeah, that would be up to the board. If we wanted to hire, in the past, we did have a DDA director, and they had a secretary. Her exact pay, I don't know what it was.
So then we would hire a secretary.
It'd be, well,
Well,
you can use that term. I think
Well,
it
I'm
was
just
called
saying-
administrative
That's
assistant.
what we
but-
had
No,
before.
no, that's fine, administrative.
Yeah,
That's fine.
the big picture is you had they had the full-time employee and then administrative assistant, yes,
Okay.
as a part-time person.
Got it.
So, so to answer your question, yes, and that's all up to you out of this budget. And there's just line items, you gotta move some money around. It's, is what it is.
Well, John, you said
And the other thing real quick, before you go into your question is, I think you said 2 or 3 year contract or something, I can't remember exactly. Historically, the DDA has done an annual review of the person that's in this position. If you do that, then you may consider doing an annual review for the money you're putting towards that person to see if you want to continue putting money towards that position, I should say. See what I'm saying? So you're still doing your diligence annually.
So in an annual basis, if this board doesn't want to continually employ this person that the city is employing,
Then the DDA could bail out of it and
could
say.
bail out of the 70, but
we
the
don't
city will
like-
continually pay that 70 in addition to the 30? Got it.
Yes.
And they've already budgeted for that line item in its entirety, so that's how they would do it.
Can
You had a
we
question
budget
for me?
both? Do we have, you
Now
said
the-
you can move some numbers around. I said,
Can we budget for
We
the
can budget for
administrative
both to
assistant
keep
and
you
the
and-
my
70?
question, the initial question
Hold on.
was, we were paying 70,000. 30,000 would be coming from the city, and with all the extras, it would go up to 230,000?
220
220,
approximately.
120,000, and then you had said that we have a budget of 500,000?
Well, our entire annual budget is around approximately 500,000, but you gotta,
About 600. Yeah, it's about-
you're into everything. That we do everything with that money. So
Yeah.
you can't just pay somebody and that's it. You got maintenance and all those other things, so.
So we'd have to see,
So out of our
The city's-
$600,000 budget, 70 would go to the city for this person. This person would come here every month, give reports, just like John does. If we decide we don't like what he's doing or her, then we say we want out. I know he said 2 or 3 years, but if we go a year and go, this is terrible, it's not working out for DDA,
there's an exit strategy.
the DDA board is not on the hook for 70 for 20 years, 25 years. That would be the city's responsibility after that.
In the big picture, guys, I think we're missing out this great opportunity on this person to really make this city rock and roll. I motion to move forward with this as soon as possible.
As part of his,
It's simple.
as part of the duties for that
It's up to
person to
them.
bring business into the city?
That's his main, that
That'll
would
the
be
main
his main.
focus of this person.
Okay.
Yep. Or at least create the atmosphere that businesses are interested in coming in. You can't force anybody at any time. I came up, the position is budgeted. We have positions budgeted, doesn't mean we fill those positions. So I just wanted to make sure that no one thinks that, well, they budgeted, so they're hiring anyway. We're not hiring that position at this point. We just knew for the last 6 months at least the board's been talking about this, we've been talking about this, so let's put a position in the budget so we're aware if the DDA agrees to this, we can move forward without having to make a change to the budget. So a position in the budget doesn't mean we're automatically hiring that position.
Right, but if this board says, like, at a certain point, they don't want to continue to help fund that, then you're still okay to move forward with it.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Let's say you already hired somebody, it's there,
Yes.
2 years in, they're like, we're done.
We'll give them another job,
That-
What was
because
it?
you're hiring someone to do downtown development, so, yeah.
That 60-day clause, being that we only meet once a month, right? So a 60-day
We
clause.
can make it that day. We're not,
But,
we're working together in this, there's no
Right,
issue of the,
okay.
us, yeah. No, and even I said 2 or 3 year, just to say, we've got some stability, we'll work together, but if you can take it out, what does 2 or 3 years mean, anything?
I mean, the
1 year
city wants the
evaluations?
best of the city.
Yeah,
I mean, we're here to provide services for the city and
We're-
make the city.
Wouldn't hurt the city, right? Like, say we don't,
What's that?
we don't want them anymore and we throw them back on the city, does that hurt the city?
no, we'll give them other duties, they're still gonna oversee the building department, we'd still have the rest of the city outside the DDA. But our objective going into this is trusting that the DDA board's not gonna say, go ahead, hire, and then get rid of them in 5 minutes. And the person we hire, we expect you're going to be very excited and pleased with, that we don't see a termination coming, would be right from the start. So we're trusting you, that you're not gonna have us hire someone and then walk away. So we're gonna make sure you're very pleased with that.
Doc, do you feel, how do we word this? If, let's just do it for instance, DDA board says absolutely not, and you hire somebody anyway, are they, does the city feel they're not allowed to economic develop in the DDA because they're not part of it? Or
I could almost
because
guarantee
you're a
that
city,
I would not hire
you're the
someone.
city.
I would not hire someone if you guys say no, because it's not financially worth it to the city if our focus is overseeing the building department, which again is a very simple job that the clerk's doing now, and then filling in strip malls in other areas in the city. Financially, it just does not make any sense whatsoever. And like I said, $17 million in development just to pay this person, that's a stretch, especially in the first couple of years until you really get the focus of where we're going. So this position is, we're not, and I've heard that was whispered once before, that, well, DDA, let the city just hire the person and the DDA will just benefit from it. That person won't be hired. It doesn't make sense to me why we would be paying. It's a heavy load to pay that position off, but at least I see the benefit of us working together in the situation.
You missed my question, I think.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna try one more time.
Go ahead.
I'll put it to you this way. You hire somebody tomorrow, the DDA's putting money into this position, and in 2 years, the DDA says, we're not gonna do it. Does that mean that person would not be allowed to work in the DDA for economic development?
No, if you're saying that the DDA would just say, we're not paying you anymore, come do our job, I'd have to ask what's the existence of the DDA for? Because your entire job is economic development is what the DDA exists. Half your name includes the development there, so.
But that's not the only
If the DDA's
thing.
position is, we're not gonna do any economic development, the city's on their own, I'm not sure what the DDA would exist for at that point, because clearly, the city and the county are giving up a lot of tax money. The city gives up $350,000 a year for the DDA to exist. Wayne County gives up $250,000 a year for this DDA to exist. If it didn't exist, the city would take back $350,000, Wayne County would take $250,000 back. Wayne County would love that because they see the development done, they're moving on.
What
Not
I'm
all
saying is-
DDAs Yeah, not all DDAs are meant to go on forever and ever and ever.
Right.
But the city itself would say, well, we get $350,000 back, we could afford economic development, we could do those things in landscape, but that's a zero interest of ours. It's, why would we want to give 250 to Wayne County? But if the DDA board just out of the blue would say, we don't want to pay you anymore, but come do our job, that would be an entirely different question.
I'm not saying come do the job. I'm saying if something happened in that zone, there's no, imaginary barrier that person can't help with that development.
Yeah.
Another way to look at it is this. You have a DDA director that the city hires, and they're labeled as such, and they're doing everything that's listed in this outline. And then you have administrative assistant that's also helping do that. There's no reason why those people can't work together to work on that development. That's what I'm saying.
We're back to
That's
the
all I'm
question
saying.
of, I'm not quite sure what that position does. That second position, if our DDA director.
You
that's
don't have
working
to.
with
The DDA board does that.
If our
I'm not
DDA
arguing with
You don't need to know that. That's our job.
Yeah, I'm saying if the
No, I'm
DDA
saying,
has a person.
let me explain, if you're the DDA director working with the city and you're walking into every business and saying, contact me, here's my cell number, here's the issues, here's what we're doing, I'm not quite sure what that second position is doing, because the phone calls are coming to the person who's actually going door to door and meeting door to door. That's
And again,
the
that
question I
second
have.
person is up to
That
the
would be the
DDA.
DDA, that would be the board's position. Right now,
Yes.
I believe all we're discussing is, do we want to move forward? There's a
Yes.
motion made. Do we want to move forward with this proposal? Motion was
I'm
made.
still at a motion.
If there's a second,
Do we have support?
I'll support it.
Oh, we have support from
Okay.
here. So we need to take a vote on the partnership with the city for hiring a director. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No discussion from, us?
There was earlier.
I'm trying.
There was earlier. This is an agenda
Discussion.
item.
For items on the agenda was early, right? Do we have any opposition?
I
You
just
can
have a
do a roll call,
question.
make sure you have the yeses and nos down straight.
I have a question, maybe it's Monday, I don't know, but they do the interview, they hire, before they hire.
You gotta speak
they
up.
Initiate a contract, right? Do we get to review the contract? So that we say, hey, we don't like the way this is written, we don't agree with this? I mean, do we have any involvement in this contract that's written, or do we just say?
Doc, are you going to be working with the board to develop
I
a
mean-
contract?
There is no contract directly for the employee, it's working, yeah.
It's between
Yeah,
the city and the
I mean, I
DDA.
understand the expectations, right? We read all this, I even
Yes.
underlined a little something to make sure I understood exactly what they said, but nonetheless,
The expectations for the board, yes.
right?
Correct.
Right, so, but when it comes down to actually hiring this individual, whoever this person would be, a contract obviously has to be written because you're giving them a salary and benefits.
The contract, they would be a city employee,
The
and they
contract is
have a
between
general
us
job
and
description.
the city.
But you're talking about we don't have contracts with employees, they're just employees hired with a job description. The contract, if you're asking about between us and you,
Right.
that would make sense for the fact that that's the clause of termination of you guys went out, just, it's out. You know, that would be, so it's not just handshakes and guesses, yes. So we would have a contract with you, and we could break down that same information of what the expectations are. But we don't sign up an employee with a contract. We don't do that with employees, no. We hire
No,
employees. But us, the city for this deal, for the 70,000, what are you paying for? Absolutely. And actually, I've been working on that already. Composition.
But the board would get to see that contract. It would-
Absolutely. Yeah, you would all agree to it.
Okay. So I guess this is just all theory still then, because we don't have a contract to look at to say, well, we would approve of this. Which is like
Well,
right
what
back
we're
to square
doing
one,
is the
right?
motion was made.
I understand that part. What
to-
I'm saying is that we're really
To
just
move
back to square
forward.
one. We really haven't done anything then, right?
Well, we see.
This
What
is
this would be.
basically.
This is the
same thing
contract
we
in
looked at
addition to
a year
the
ago.
additional items that he put on there. Yeah. This is the contract. If you don't like something on this contract,
This is not a contract. This is the
This
same
is-
thing that we
this one
reviewed a
here.
year ago.
That's like a job description.
This is, yeah,
this is the contract.
I don't
Well, it's a
have that.
proposal.
It's a proposal of
Right.
contract.
So,
Yes.
Okay, hold
Yeah.
on here. Why don't I have that? Do you have that?
It's very similar to the actual brochure that we put out. So it's the expectations of the job of what they would work with the DDA, what they'd work with the city, and where we'd be.
And then after so this person that is hired by the city presents to us as a board of on a monthly basis, and it's up to the board to agree and disagree on certain things. And then, does the city have the right to refuse that board agreeing, or to supersede that? Like, let's say we say no. Because yeses are always good, but it's the nos that come into
Yeah.
disagreement. Does
So-
the city come back and say, well, no, that no is gonna be washed away and we're gonna supersede that?
That would really depend on the topic, because as you said earlier too, anything good happening is good happening.
good.
Yeah, so, but the board still has your ability to vote and make decisions on what your position is. The objective would be that person, when they're with the DDA, they're working for you guys. When they're over here, they're working for the city, but basically we should be on the same page across the board.
So that person has to make do with all of us
Everybody
to
happy.
satisfy.
Oh, absolutely.
To move forward with a yes.
They would be in contact with you regularly, because it's be their full-time job, as opposed to just once-a-month meetings.
Sure.
So they'll be in contact, so they would be your employee, basically when you're working with them. But, I mean, again,
Just on the side note, I mean, that person, I mean, I have an assistant, administrative assistant, because I'm dealing with specific things, and this gentleman, lady, whoever it is dealing with,
Yeah.
one-to-one, but he or she has to have an assistant as well. So that would be on our end to hire that administrative assistant.
If we have
If we
money in
need-
the
if
budget,
we
we
need it,
can
yeah.
budget for that, yes.
Got it.
I don't have an assistant. I'm
Our,
the city manager.
all we're voting on is moving forward right
Yes.
now, and then
Thanks.
I would say
You need one.
in comments, we can move to maybe next meeting, bringing that up as far as hiring an assistant or whatever.
We can
Doc?
do that as a next item.
I'm not gonna
Doc
say,
needs one.
I'm not gonna
So are
say,
we taking roll?
John, can you take the roll for the vote, please?
Sure. I just want to be clear, at city council meetings, when you do an action item, you give an opportunity for the board to speak and then public comments. Is that not true?
we have a different meeting agenda. Ours says if it's on the agenda, you have public comments for agenda items only. City doesn't do it the exact same way as this.
There's a public comments for general non-agenda items down here.
What's your motion?
My motion is to move forward with this proposal to pay the 70,000 and have the city help hiring this economic development director.
May I ask a couple more questions before we go to the motion, please?
You agree?
So-
Go ahead.
To Doug, please. How are we gonna guarantee that we get 60% of the time?
I put 60 because I thought I'd try to go as low as I could possibly go. It's going to be expected to be a lot more than 60%. Their job, again, is not, as I always say, take our clerk's office and take away all those responsibilities. He's got 90% of his time to do something, and this is where it starts, is the downtown. So this entire position's focus would be DDA, and that's something, again, the board could sit here and say, you're not talking to any of our businesses, you're not letting us know what's going on, we see no plans and reports. You're gonna know pretty quickly if that person's spending time or not in the downtown. But
This
that would
person's
be the
not doing
focus.
clerk stuff though, is he?
No, well, no, this person's doing nothing of that. I'm just saying Matt Miller does this overseeing the building department.
Okay.
If he had nothing else to do but just that, he would have 90% of his time,
Got it.
95% to go downtown and do work.
Another thing, I don't know if this is possible, let's say at the end, if you have 2 or 3 candidates, is it possible that they can have a presentation to the
Absolutely.
DDA before they get hired?
DDA's gonna,
We'll be part of it.
We'll have a
pick a
committee.
couple people, the chairperson will
Yeah,
pick a couple people to be on the interview board with the city.
I meant like, yeah, I meant like at the end, let's say if you have 3 candidates or 2 candidates, could they have like, they come and they do
Could.
presentation, how they gonna help the city move on?
you could. At that point, it'd be a public meeting for the board, but that's not impossible by any means because it's a significant
At least
position.
we know their ideas, like how they're gonna bring business into the
Absolutely.
city.
That'd probably be good for the city to see too, the residents.
Yeah, normal department heads wouldn't go through that process, but certainly for this position, they're going to be sitting here and presenting, so they should be comfortable with the board, and the board should be comfortable with who they are speaking, so that's not an issue at all. And maybe that's a couple of board members on the hiring committee, and then the next step is coming to a meeting and presenting themselves, and you guys ask questions at that point too. So that doesn't help us if you're not happy and comfortable. Yep. Like that.
Any other questions? Okay. Do the roll, please.
Can I get the motion maker? That was you, right?
Hyder,
Who
yeah.
was the second?
It was from
Aye.
Gus.
Dr. Hyder,
Yes.
trustee Kalaf,
Yes.
chair Stabley,
Yes.
trustee Bazey,
Yes.
trustee Barry,
Yes.
secretary Wilconis,
Yes.
Mayor Jacobs.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, it's unanimous. Next, we will move on to public comments, general non-agenda items only. Anyone from the audience have anything?
John Murray, Lather Street. One of the issues I've seen in town right now is like, last year we were looking at expanding the park where the chili cook-off is. We brought people in, everything else. And I asked, what was the theme gonna be? Are we missing the boat a little bit that we don't have themes for what our downtown area is? Also, is there a mission statement for the DDA, for Parks and Rec? It's all promotional items that we need to somehow invigorate to enhance our community to come together. And you people are the key people. You have said you're moving in advance. I'm not quite sure what I can even ask because this is a non-agenda part of the council, but what is your interpretation, maybe when you go around, on what you mean by we're going in advance? Because I think the building department is one entity, and I'm asking why a community developer would not be a salary position, because it is sales. And don't you measure your productivity by the volume of their work? Why are we gonna give someone just a paycheck with no true expectations? And that's the stuff you people have to ask yourself, and you need to figure out a way to get the answers to satisfy me, because I'm gonna be here asking questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree.
Anyone else?
It's not in stone yet. It's not in stone.
Opal Loveland, Barton Street, and my husband and I own a business on Ford Road. We've been on Ford Road almost 33 years. We have a double air plant flower box out there. We cut the lawn out there. We do snow blowing ourselves. We're not in the DDA. I really think, and this is being realistic, not negative, I think each of you and each of council needs to spend some time up on Ford Road, because it is not a user-friendly area at all. It is dangerous. It is dangerous for us to do snow blowing. There's only about 12 inches of asphalt between the sidewalk and the curb. And I've listened for years about making downtown Garden City a walkable downtown. This isn't Plymouth. It's 5 lanes of traffic. It's a state road. I think we'd be better off if we could think outside the box and try to divert a downtown area, north or south of Ford Road, to make it a real user-friendly area. I was working out in front of our store, a customer stopped. They wanted to talk. He's like, his hair is blowing. I didn't know it was this noisy, this bad, this windy. It is windy all the time on Ford Road. You can have 0 wind anywhere else in the city. It is windy on Ford Road all the time. With the trucks, the traffic, it's noisy. You got motorcycles, you got big freight trucks. It is a brutal area. It is not something that's gonna be a walkable downtown for Garden City. I think we need to think outside the box. And if you don't believe me, I invite you to just go spend some time right on the sidewalk on Ford Road. So the other thing I want to mention, I think it's very unfair to the public to have your public comments for agenda items only at the top. So as things are discussed and we come and we attend and we're interested, and we don't have an opportunity to comment. I think that's disrespectful to the people that are interested in this community. And I think the Director of Community Development proposal should have been moved to action items if you were going to take a vote on it. So that's all I have. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
I agree.
Anyone else?
They should be able to comment, so that really should get fixed.
All right, so next
gonna
we're
second
moving
that.
on to the director's report.
Yeah, everything in the director's report was, not rebuttal, but, answers to what we talked about earlier, so, there's a little bit more homework for me to do on a couple of those items, so unless you have any further questions, that's what's on the list.
Okay, thank you. Trustee board comments. We'll start with you, Mayor Jacobs.
Yep, to answer some of Mr. Murray's questions earlier, the light proposal, it really wasn't an emergency. The ones that fell were an emergency. They hired a company, DDA, this was before me. They went out, they checked all the poles, seen what was unsafe, took those down. The contract with CGE was a non-emergency proposal, a bid. It wasn't,
I agree with you that there was corrosion. I didn't know the numbers or everything else. I just thought
They-
because of it being an emergency, we don't need to be beating up the fact that we didn't put it out for a competitive bid. I think it's a mute issue.
it's over now, but you asked about, since it was an emergency, the bid itself was not part of an emergency. The emergency, the bad poles were already examined and taken down, so that was not a issue with anything with the proposal. The proposal came completely after all the bad poles were taken down. So, the ACLU issue that you brought up, just touching on that, that was not a lawyer's opinion from the ACLU. That was a secretary that put out her opinion. It was not anything legal. Our attorney looked at it, and he agreed that our rules for it are good for social media. They're legal, they're upstanding, they're fine. So, other than that, I'd still like to, I'd like to make a proposal that we look at leaving the office. We pay $12,000 plus a year for that office. We do have space in City Hall. I've brought it up before. So I'd like to, we don't have a yearly contract, it's a month-to-month. So I'd like to look at maybe making a motion that, and I'll leave it up to the board, that we leave the DDA office, move it over to City Hall at either December 1st, January 1st, whatever the board would like, or if they want to consider that.
Where's the office, where would the office be at?
It would be in City Hall. There is an office space there. But again, we're paying $12,000 that we're not.
John, is there a lot of things that are stored there that need to be there?
Yep.
Like, for instance,
There's a lot of things.
is there a spot that stuff can be
I mean,
stored here?
you got everything that has to do with the downtown decorating annually and seasonally, and plus everything that's, paperwork-wise, and there's a substantial amount. I'm not saying it can't be handled, but I've also been told by DPS and everyone that I've asked about storage space, they don't have any. So I'd be surprised if all of a sudden they came up with storage space.
Well, in the DDA office, which I'm talking about, there's nothing there but probably some filing cabinets and a couple desks, TV.
But you know that's more than that. So it's my recommendation that if you want to do things such as what was just done with this, moving forward with this proposal, that they be asked to be put on as an action item. I don't know, in the past, this board has voted to move things from one spot to action item spot and then voted on it. This can be probably up for discussion and then maybe voted on or moved to an action item in the future. I also don't think there's a huge rush to get it done by like December 1st, if that's what the board wishes. So,
Well, I
Just my
don't know what
thought.
the urgency would, if we're moving forward with this proposal and there's the potential of, hiring someone who's going to be an employee of the city, maybe we transition it at that time, because it is budgeted for the year.
That's
you know,
fine.
So I think we can kind of maybe, take some time on
Right,
that one.
it's just a discussion that I brought up before.
I think the
Again.
whole thing hinges on storage though, right? It's not just that office, it's the idea that all the things that are stored,
it hinges on more than that,
Right.
but
or
well,
what?
I think the mayor's just bringing it up today so everybody knows about it. You're not expecting action and movement today because, I mean, there's a discussion that needs to go with that, in my opinion.
Well, it's kind of like, just to revisit the economic developer. That's the same thing we've been talking about for several months, right? A year probably now. I didn't think this was any different. It's still just kind of in limbo because you're going to move forward, but until we actually have come to agreement on how and when this person is hired, how the interactions are gonna play out between the DDA board and the EDD, et cetera, then we really are nowhere until we have that contract, Doc. Get your assistant on that. He's not even paying attention to me,
Sorry, Mayor, you still were up.
right?
Yeah, we're off
Comments.
topic.
So, and then the last thing is I'd still like to move forward with a RFP for an attorney, DDA attorney, based on all the things I've said in the past about some of his advice that he's brought before us. I think he's also on he's an at-will. He only responds if we have questions, so I'd like to put out an RFP for another DDA attorney, or at least offers for another attorney.
Can we add that to the agenda for next month's meeting? That
Sure.
we can put together an RFP for
Yes, yes.
the attorneys? Okay. Anything
And
else?
I think that's all I have.
I think I could put it on the agenda for discussion of what that RFP looks like first, right? And then make sure those parameters are what the board desires and then go from there.
Okay,
Does that sound reasonable?
I think it does.
I don't know how to write it. I could
Well,
probably go to,
I'll bring you outline information and we can build it from there. How's that? Like, that's step one for an RFP, right? Okay. Recorded.
Thank you. Anything else?
nope, that's it.
Okay. Trustee Kalaf, do you have any items for discussion?
I don't know if it's the right time now, but I'm thinking like about the downtown, like how to improve the downtown of Garden City. There is a program in MDOT, and I don't know if Wayne County has that. It's called Complete Street. Complete Street will serve everybody, like will serve pedestrian, bicyclists, cars, buses, everybody will be served. So it goes along with the proposal that you're talking about, and the same thing with the lady that she was talking about, like how busy is Ford Road. This will improve Ford Road for everybody, Ford Road and Middlebury. At the same time, I believe it will bring business and will bring pedestrians. The moment that you bring pedestrians, you bring more businesses.
What does Complete Street do?
It's like they reduce the pavement by providing something called bump out, more greenery. reduce the travel distance for pedestrian to cross the road, so they can cross the road more with confidence, like they don't have a problem with that.
Does that mean reducing lanes too?
It's very possible reducing lanes, and that will reduce the speed too. So it's a study that need to be done, and it happened, like you can see it like everywhere. You can see it on Livernois in Detroit, it was done. On Grand River in Detroit, it was done. And if you go on Grand River, like almost every small town, there's like, they have that, like it's
Reduced.
it's reduced.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt,
In
but
Farmington,
I've seen that at Grand River and Lasser, where the old Redford Theater is
Yes.
exactly where they've utilized that.
yes. And
Where's Grand River and Lasher?
By the old Redford Theater. It's right off of between 6 Mile and Grand River, you know, heading north.
on Grand River, yeah.
Grand River, and I believe on Lasser too.
Yes.
That's very narrow there.
So-
It's like the whole
By the Myers?
lanes and all that.
By the Myers?
Not quite that far. It's a little to the west. Yeah. If you go to the Meyer, you're too far east. It's before that.
So I think if we speak to the state of Michigan and we speak to Wayne County and like work together, I think we can do something here.
That's a great point to make. Thank you for sharing that.
Welcome to the board also, by the way.
Thank you very
Yes.
much. Thank you.
Especially in this corner, there's accidents every other day.
And this is the thing, like, I used to work for the city of Detroit, I used to work for the state of Michigan. There are some funds for safety. Like, if we can prove it, that there are accidents happen in that corridor, we can get safety funds. And that safety fund sometimes could go to 100%. City doesn't have to pay anything.
Good source of information.
Sure.
Thank
sure.
you.
Yeah, great hire here.
I mean, we get a record of that, right? Every time there's an accident, the city gets a record of that, right? Even if the police aren't called.
Yeah, the stats.
'Cause it's like every day, every other day, at least right on, I mean, it's not like major accidents, fender benders, but it does hold up traffic, it does cause.
And even like the same thing, like we're talking about, like for the fire truck, we can connect signals with the fire station. And then when the fire truck leaves, they can turn on all these signals for them. Like, there are a lot of funds that we just need to look for these funds. Probably the director that can help in this thing.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Trustee Barry?
Hmm?
Okay, trustee Walkonis?
I said my piece.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Hyder, anything for you?
There is a little piece that I'd like to talk about. I talked to what is the maintenance guy's name, George?
Gary?
Gary. And he said to bring it up next time the meeting comes up. He's aware that to cut grass on, what's that street called on the corner of me?
Brant?
On Brant, so he cuts Ford Road, and he goes down Brant, going north, and he stops there, right? So he cuts the grass there. But then he's like, the lot that's behind you is not owned by the DDA, so that's why he doesn't do anything there. It's owned by the city. You familiar with what I'm talking about, Doc?
Yeah, I don't know about the cut, but I know where
So there's no grass to cut, but it's all kinds of weeds that grows all over. So I took it upon myself to get somebody and just cut out weed trees, and then all kinds of weeds and things like that. But now it's up again. So it just needs somebody to do it on a consistent basis. But we're not sure how this is gonna be, because there's holes that swallows cars, all right? And my patients coming in and out of there, it's very unsafe. And I hear it every day. I mean, we get over 100+ cars coming in and out of there. And that's the only way into my lot and out of my lot, is through a beautiful, you know, lot of land that we're all trying to speak of how we can fill it, let alone if we can't make it, I mean, part of it is owned by the city. If the city can't take care of their part, how are we as a DDA gonna help shop the other parts that we're trying to fill? So who owns that city? Who owns that lot?
City owns
Yeah,
it.
come on.
Yes.
That lot's owned by a whole lot of different businesses. The city's
No,
property.
no, the lot that is, between Rare Muscle Car Parts and, the dental office.
There is a square the city owns. Part of it is also owned by LA Fitness. The city owns, just in general, so you know, we own a lot behind the doctor's office there, a square. We own right behind Hershey Shoes where the dumpsters are. And we own the Save-On over to the Commons area, that parking just in the
Inside.
corner. Yep, so we have, everywhere else is owned by all the different businesses. And one of the things we've been talking over the years, but leaving it to the DDA, was, do we approach all those businesses and say, give it to the DDA or give it to the city, 99-year lease? It's still parking, it will always be parking, but we'll take it on. The city, snow removal, paving it, you know, at this point, the whole place at one time, I think we had a price close to $500,000, maybe 600,000. The last couple of years, I've asked our engineers to just put a number together, what would it take? You'd have to get every one of those businesses to say, here's my property, my parking lot. The banquet hall owns a huge plot behind them, and it's just a mix match. And just over the years, I don't think anyone's really approached everybody. But that might be a good merger again with the DDA and the city to say, let's get on the same page and make this just one big property. Even where the chili cook-off is, part of that's the city, but all those other areas around it is all owned by Beaumont, by Garden City Cafe. And so with these lots that we use for bigger events and activities, we probably should just get everybody on the same page with it. And then we'll maintain it. You know, how we pay for it all, that's sometimes.
But the current city lots,
Oh, that, yeah, and actually I was gonna, back there, was it Monday? Yesterday, I guess it was. We directed Public Works to go over, just to hit all those weeded areas where the light poles are.
sure.
It may not even be city property, some of those areas, but there's weeds growing in all those different areas. And who owns what, again, it's a hodgepodge. So we did put a whole bunch of patching in that area behind your office too. But it's a mess like the rest of the parking lot is. It really needs to be just fully done. It won't make a lot of sense for the city to do our squares and leave the rest. So that may be something we talk even with this new director to come in to say, maybe we just need to do something there between the city and the DDA. And that's good use of DDA is what can we do to invest in more downtown parking areas.
Would the city consider the opposite, rather than the city maintain it, have the business owners maintain it? Because it's gonna happen a lot faster if the business owners, and then the city can put pressure on them to maintain it
Well,
at that point.
yeah, and it's their
But then-
properties now.
But then it would flip, right? So instead of becoming a city property, it'd become a business owner property.
If
So in other
one-
words, if you took on that property that is giving you grief right now, that belongs to the
Then I would
city,
be
give it to
mandated-
you,
I would
and
be
then you can
mandated
fill
to
in the
fix it.
holes, you can clean it
Yeah.
up, and the problem
Right.
is solved. That sounds great,
Except
except what?
we don't know what development's gonna be coming into the Kmart parking lot, and that's a huge lot. That could be an out parcel of a major restaurant.
Well,
So I
you
don't-
can't build on that. It's an easement way to get in. You
Yeah.
can make.
No, not the
Isn't that what
roadway.
he's
There's-
talking
there's a
about?
hu-
That's-
You can
We
do
own the
that.
roadway, but we also own a huge parking part of that roadway. So before the city gives away property in a major development area, I would say, let's hold off to see what's coming in and not just give those lots away.
But you can't build anything on it. It's an easement to be a road.
I think we're talking about a different area. You're talking about the large spot behind your business. It's a huge, it's an acre and a half. I'm not talking about just,
Can we sidebar this?
Yeah.
And I'll show him right afterwards? Okay.
Okay.
yeah, we'll talk about it. But that's the only thing is in an undeveloped
Yeah,
area,
they're
you
not-
don't want to give property away.
Right.
That's, no, that's, he'll have to tell you.
No, but I think the whole comment of my comment was just clean up city areas, and that's all.
On a
Thank
side
you.
note, did anything happen with Warren's property?
Nothing is.
I'm sorry,
On a
what?
side note, with Warren's property, did anything end up
No,
developing?
no new news as far as I know.
But that's all. I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh,
Trustee Bazey, do you have anything? Okay. I just want to mention, you know, some of the areas in the downtown where we have, you know, the trees and the plants around and all of that, and the landscaping that's kind of, I know the garden club does, you know, the center planting of everything there, that looks great, but some of those areas that are around the commons there, they look pretty sad, as well as some of the things in the downtown. So if we could take a look at, you know, what can be done to kind of clean those things up, make them look better?
Yeah, I understand the first part, but then you said it's looking, some of those things are looking, and then some of the things are looking sad. So what, can you define?
Well,
I mean, I
it just
understand
doesn't-
flower bed areas.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I did talk to Gary
talking
about
about.
that. He said, after this weekend, that they'd go through and do a cleanup. I don't know why it's after this weekend. I prefer it before this weekend, but, so anyway, I'll readdress that with him, but what was the other thing that we were saying was also sad?
Well, it's just that those planted areas around the commons and around, like, the trees in the downtown area.
Like down the road?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Understood.
And that's all I have. We don't have anything for closed session, so, do we have?
Excuse me, there
Oh,
was a
sorry.
conversation about possibly moving the meeting next month because it's so close to the Thanksgiving holiday.
Correct,
That was kind of sidebarred till the end, so
yes.
did you want to bring that up, or?
I do, because I think that it might be difficult for some people to attend around the holiday because of travel plans. If we can move it up to the week before or the week after, depending on what the board thinks would be better for their schedules.
So if you're looking at the week before, it's the 14th. If you keep it on the same day and time, the week after, the holiday week is the 28th. Keep in mind that that Thursday is Thanksgiving, and then that Saturday is the Sandland Parade. So if there's any business that comes up regarding any of that, then you're not gonna hit it till after if you do the 28th, but whatever the board
I think before,
wishes, so I can just,
before,
14.
Okay,
I think that's what works.
all right. Can we move to the 14th then of November?
That's fine.
Okay. Do we
Not
take
that,
a vote on
not that it matters, but I will be out of town, but doesn't matter.
The rest of the board. was
Yep.
unanimous.
Absolutely.
Is it gonna be sunny? Is it gonna be sunny?
That I don't, I hope.
Okay. Do we
It's
need a
warmer than
motion or
here.
anything to move that, or you're just gonna schedule it?
we'll readjust it on the website, and
Okay,
I'll send a note out to all of you.
okay. And again, welcome to our new trustee.
Thank you.
Happy to have you.
Adjourn.
All right, with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Adjourn, motion.